Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Collider Town Hall. Hear ye, hear ye. My name is Mark Ellis, and you guys are about to spend the next hour with the head cheeses of Collider, and you can ask them whatever you want, whether it's via Twitter or it's on the YouTube feed right now. This is your guys' show. There's been a lot of changes recently at Collider, and now we get to shed some light on the past, the present, and the future of Collider, Collider.com, and Collider Video. Joining us today is Marc Fernandez, the CEO and proprietor of Collider, as well as Kristian Harloff, Dennis Tzeng, and Steve Weintraub, the founder of Collider.com. Before we get into individual questions, as we gather them, I do want to turn it over to Marc Fernandez. Like I said, you are the CEO, you're the proprietor of Collider. I hope I got your title right, because you're one of the reasons why I still get to be around this studio. I know you have a little State of the Union you'd like to give to the fans, so the floor is yours, good sir.
So look, you're also one of the reasons that I'm still around here, because I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a big fan of everybody's work around here. And sometimes when you believe in something, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And that's exactly what we did. And it's not just me by myself. It's everybody in this room, everybody on this table has made a lot of sacrifices. You know, a lot of sacrifices when things were a little bit on shaky ground. Everybody kept their eye on the goal and kept focusing on what each individual member of the team could do to help get the team a big victory. And like, look, it's the preseason, but you know, we had a good showing in the preseason, and we're here, you know, and now it's really up to us to have a great 2018 as a completely independent company where there's no parachute. There's no parachute. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, we won't be around. That's just the reality of it, you know? And everybody here is very, very committed to putting this brand and this company in front and making sure that all the things that they do will help us be here next year. And look, you know, I love this town hall thing. I think the name might be a little cheesy, but like, the idea is the right idea. You know, like, it's very, very important, because ultimately we're not here without the fans. You know, we're not here without the fan support, and we have to try to create a healthy conversation between us and the fans. So it's very easy for conversations between a brand and a fan base to be unhealthy and to be highly critical in both directions. And I think these kind of events are going to help create a more constructive conversation between the fans and the brand, because there's certain things that are just not realistic. But there's certain things that when you hear enough of from the brands could actually affect change. So look, I'm very, very excited about what's going to happen here today. I have no idea what the questions are, but look, you know, we will be as forthcoming as we possibly can.
You see, kids, before the information superhighway, towns would actually get together in person and have things called town halls where they could ask whatever they wanted to. That's what's about to happen right now on your own internet. So before we get into specific questions from the fans, I have a few queries of my own that I would like to ask to you, particularly Marc, but anybody else is welcome to chime in. I know that we are now a lot more of an independent spirit than what we were known for before, when we were owned by the huge conglomerate, which was Complex. So when that change happened, whether it was full-time employees like the people I'm looking at, or freelancers like Chuckles right over here, it was the need to downsize. And that's always an unfortunate issue. And so when I come to work, all of a sudden, I don't see friends that I've come to know and love like Ken or Makuga, people that I think are great workers like Alicia, Grace, Jonathan Boyko, or even people that were on-camera talents and freelancers like Ashley Mova, Natasha Martinez, and Sinead DeFries. Can we expect to see them back? And what goes into the decision when you acquire a company as to who to keep and who to let go?
Okay, going right for it from the top. Fair enough. Look, let me give you guys some insight into what's been going on here for the last year or so. We were very, very lucky last year that we got an incredible licensing opportunity with Verizon Go 90 to make Awesome-tacular, okay? Awesome-tacular, which is a show that I hope you guys have seen. And if you haven't, check it out. There's a lot of hard work and effort went into that show 48 episodes, and I'm proud of every single one of them.
And it almost killed me in one of them.
Yes, and Makuga. But throughout that show, what that show really allowed us to do was to grow, right? Was to go from an interesting little web show, that was really based off of the AMC days and stuff like that, to allow us to expand, right? Because of that, we were able to bring in people like Ken and like Josh and Alicia and Grace and all these, wonderful people that allowed us to support that show. Now, sadly enough, the viewership wasn't there, whatever variables weren't there, the show didn't get renewed, That is a massive amount of funds that we no longer have, and that's just a reality, okay? So currently, we weren't able to support those very, very specific roles on a full-time basis. But look, at the end of the day, and I'm just being very honest here, we love Ken, we love Josh. When Kristian Harloff says, I want Ken on JEDI Council on a freelance basis, we say done, So I don't believe Ken has missed one JEDI Council since he is no longer full-time. With Josh, it's a different scenario, but it's one that, look, to be sober, I kind of put it a little bit on the fans. Like TV Talk was a show that me and Dennis actually were obsessive over, and we sort of put it all together, and we were convinced that TV Talk was going to be a mainstay of this brand forever, to the point where TV Talk evolved itself from a daily show, from a weekly show to a daily show. We've made those decisions around TV Talk because that's how much we believed in it. But no matter what we would do with TV Talk, there was a ceiling that we couldn't get past. The shareability was very low on that show. The audience, and that's why I think it's so important to have these kind of town halls to get a real honest temperature of what's going on. The audience wasn't embracing it. And I think Josh said it best in one of his tweets after, everybody started coming out with the Save TV Talk hashtag. I think Josh said it best, like the views weren't there. Where were all of you guys when we needed the show to go beyond 18,000 views, 21,000 views? I mean, look, the playlist is still there. We talk about TV Talk on a daily basis of how we can bring it back. But then we all always come to the same conclusion. How do we get the audience to really engage with it, to share it, to make it the success that justifies all of the time and effort and expenditures that go around something like that? So look, at the end of the day, I know it's tough because, like you're saying, friends are, family. Unfortunately, this isn't a family. This is a team. And everybody around here needs to contribute to team victories. And as much as we love people, I have to have the tough decisions of making sure that we have the right team around us to win. And that changes all the time. So I know that TV Talk is something that you've have all kinds of ideas to try to bring back.
Yeah, well, it's all of that, though, too. And it's what you're saying as far as, when you mention Ken and Makuga, those are not only, some of my best friends. If you look at a lot of the Collider staff, Ellis and I really helped build the team. It's me, Ellis, Cody, Copster, Riley, Roca, Ken, Makuga. To lose two of our guys was really hard. But when he explained it to me, the way he just explained it to you, in a business sense, you say, it's what makes sense right now. If we want to try to grow, that's what makes sense. And like he just said, the first thing I said was, I need Ken on Star Wars. I need Ken on the Schmodown. I need Ken to be involved. And he said, done. Makuga's the same thing. Makuga, we need to figure out what to do next. We want to do more of those VR games, which he's so fun to scare. And you've seen Makuga back on
That's real.
Yeah, and Makuga will be back on the Schmodown.
That shit is real. Shout out to Josh.
And that'll go more into that stuff. As far as TV goes, I do have a bigger plan for TV Talk. We have a bigger plan for TV Talk. There's something, I don't even know how much we can talk about one particular thing because we really go into it yet, but there's something that we're working on that would absolutely bring back TV Talk. There's something that could bring back a lot of the shows, whether it's Nightmares or anything else too, if this particular thing goes the way we want it to go. But again, it's just a matter of the right pieces falling into place.
Yeah, and look, I want to address one other thing to that question, because this is a very loaded question. When it comes to Ashley, Natasha, Sinead, I mean, I'm a huge fan of all of them. But as we and look, when I ran Complex Video, I became such a huge fan of Natasha and her work at Collider that we started using her a lot more on Complex. And I'm sure that, for the hardcore fan out there, I'm sure you know that Natasha's on Complex on practically a daily basis, So, like Natasha is somebody that has really crossed over between the Collider and the Complex audience. But as we restructured Movie Talk, as Mark Ellis became ingrained as the host, and I really, as a good quarterback, sort of built the team around him, that role of the sort of reader of the news outside of the discussion was something that I just didn't like. Like I didn't feel the need for that in the show. I felt that Ellis could very quickly read his own news, and then we could focus on the conversation.
And the flip side of that as well is you look at someone like Sinead, and I know Sinead very well. Sinead's going to check out movies all the time, and we were talking, she'd make a better panelist than she would just reading the news.
Agreed.
So you'll see her more as a panelist, And the thing with Mova, she isn't. And the problem that comes with this is that when you have a steady gig, it's hard. Mova lives like where I do, but I'm a full-time employee, so it makes sense for me to be able to make the trek, come out here. It's harder for Mova to do it from where she is, to be able to just for one freelance gig to come in. But she's another one that if she wants to come in, as we've talked about, we've invited her to be back on Movie Talk to be someone who just talks about movies. They are on the roster, Sinead. And Sinead and both Ashley, I think, are going to movies all the time. They're able to have the conversation about it. And I think you're going to see Sinead a lot more because we love the ladies and we want to see them back more.
Absolutely. But we want them in roles that suit their skill set and that contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way. I wasn't a big fan of the reads coming and that's it. And I think Ellis could do that very quickly, and we want to just keep focusing on the conversation. So with those ladies, I mean, we are constantly trying to figure out ways to bring them back. And I believe Sinead's been on the show. Sinead's been on Ladies' Night. So that's going to continue to keep growing. And as we create new program, and look, there's a huge directive for us internally, which is to create more female-centric programming. And we're lucky enough that we've worked with so many incredible females in this industry that it's easy for us to mix and match talent for all these different ideas that we have. So, but I wanted to address that because I know when I read the comments, and look, we all read the comments, that we know that comes up a lot. And look, we also miss having that energy here on a daily basis, but we want to make sure that energy is being represented in the right way.
One of the things that I've been really impressed by since you came into the fold at Collider, I guess a year and a half ago, was that we've had such an increase in the amount of diverse voices and opinions and personalities and ethnicities and races that we've had ever before on Collider. That's something that I hope we can expect to see continue, where we do have even more women and people of color coming onto the shows and representing their own voices, because I think you and I see eye to eye that makes the best conversation.
Absolutely. And look, I think there's nothing that I'm more proud of working at Complex for all these years and working with Mark Echo and working with Rich and working with Noah and working with Joe LaPuma is how it's not just a slogan, it's not just something that you drop, it's not just a fun thing to say, but it's a lifestyle. And representation and multiculturalism has to be a lifestyle choice. And it's a choice that you have to work at on a constant basis. As you probably hear it, I have an accent. I came to this country not knowing how to speak English. I'm Cuban. I was raised in Venezuela. I'm an outsider. And even when I went to NYU for film school, I had to kind of change my name from Marco to Mark because it was just I was trying to blend in, and it's tough, And I'm very proud of us as a team that we're constantly thinking about representation and how we can expand our POV by having more voices than are the easy ones to choose. So for sure that's something that, like, it's not a catchphrase, it's not a token thought, it's a lifestyle. And it's one that I think we're all very committed to.
I want to start to get to some of these fan questions now. Ryan Snelling, which is a name you guys may recognize as one of the hosts from After Schmo, the beloved program all across the world. Hi, Ryan and Jay. This actually, I guess, can be kicked off best by Frosty. He asks, are there any plans to involve the .com side of Collider more?
So first of all, before we get to that, I want to make a quick little announcement. So there's been some title changes here, and I think there's been some leaks about it online that I saw this morning. But Frosty, who's the editor-in-chief of Collider.com, is also now the vice president of web. Dennis Tzeng is the vice president of production, and Kristian Harloff is the vice president of development. I'm very happy for them that they get to step up. There's also been some other promotions around the team. Guy who's staring at me from behind that camera, Thad Williams, is now the director of Post, and his team is growing. Perry Nemiroff is now the senior editorial producer, so her team is also growing. It's all about growth, and I always tell these guys, and I'll tell you guys out there as well, if you're in a gig and you don't see chances of growth, it's time to leave that gig. But anyway, with that said, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Now I have new questions. Do I have to call them vice president when I see them
Absolutely
in the office?
not. No.
Mr. Vice President.
Can I still
or
call
Mrs. Vice President.
Cobster? Is that cool?
Yeah, Cobster hasn't gotten a promotion.
Copster's actually the silent owner in this whole thing.
See the silent partner we read about in the Hollywood Reporter. Frosty, the question to you from Ryan Snelling was, can we expect to see more of a crossover from the .com side to the video side? I guess more of an integration, and then from video to .com as well.
1,000% yes. We actually had a meeting this morning, and we've been working behind the scenes tirelessly on collaboration, and I am really, really excited for what we are cooking behind the scenes, and I think fans will be really, really happy on what's coming. But the answer is 1,000% yes.
Dennis, this question I think can best be fielded by you first. It comes from Cameron Haas, and it's asking about the new digs, the new studio. Yes. What sort of improvements can we expect to see from the studio? And in that vein, where do you see Collider a year from now, on March 5th, 2019?
There's, with the new studio is great. It's much bigger. It's actually more inclusive in terms of where everyone is sitting, and we can all kind of have conversations much easier, have meetings much easier. However, the studio itself was not totally 100% ready for us to move into from a production standpoint. So yes, we know there are some issues, especially with the sound, that we are currently working on. We just have to implement them. You have to remember that we have shows running all day, all week, sometimes on the weekend, so we don't always have the opportunity to go in, because you have to actually have a whole crew come in here and fix certain things. So all that stuff is coming. And in terms of from a year from now, I expect us to up our production value, not only in the studio, but in our kind of on-location shoots. And we're going to expand the type of, Kristian will talk about it later, and Marc as well, about our future programming, stuff with higher production value and also a more diverse kind of settings.
That actually goes into a question that was asked by Jay Williams, who also is on After Schmo. He's the co-host with Ryan. Kristian, I guess this can be best answered by you, because he asked, what sort of new content can we expect from Collider Video in the future? Can you give us any insight?
Am I allowed to give some of the insight? I mean, what am I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet, because, again, there's certain things.
He's really putting the vice in that vice president title, isn't
it? Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that Ellis and I kind of built our stamp in this space through our podcast. We built our podcast through, he and I on the Schmoes Know, we're on we're at Adam Carolla, and we decided to try to do our own show in 2011. That show kind of built up a lot of steam, and we continued it on for a very long time. And throughout that, we built the SK Plus network, which was a bunch of different shows, and by the After Schmo, which covers a lot of Collider and Schmoes programming, which if you guys don't listen to, you should. They really break down the inner workings of all this stuff from a fan's perspective. But it made me start thinking about Collider's feed. And Dennis and I have been talking about this for years. Collider's iTunes feed is essentially just one big feed with just every program that we have. It's like if you subscribe to Collider, you just have everything. And we felt we were leaving too much on the table, so we're in the works to create the Collider Podcast Network. And with that, what comes with the Collider Podcast Network, not only will you get Jedi Council, Movie Talk, which will have their own feeds. If you look at a Collider Video and then you subscribe to Jedi Council, you subscribe to Heroes, you subscribe to Movie Talk, all that, it now allows us to potentially create another YouTube channel that will have all those videos. So if you're familiar with, say, I don't know, Dan Patrick or Joe Rogan, where you look at and you can see those people while they're podcasting, that's what you'll see on this second channel. And you'll also be able to get those shows in that feed. And what that also allows us to do is create new programming. So whereas TV Talk, if TV Talk wouldn't necessarily succeed on Collider Video on this particular channel, but it is getting a healthy amount of downloads on a podcast channel, that is a way to bring back shows. Nightmares, other shows that you liked in the past, brand new shows, other types of things besides just movies. It's a big project, and it's an exciting project, and it is a way to create new, fantastic opportunity, as well as kind of going into other social media platforms, whether they're smaller, kind of short form videos, things of that nature. We're building it up. We're not just staying. I think it's very similar to what Mark just said. If you stay and there's no growth, then go and do something else. But if you see the opportunity for growth and you're not utilizing it, utilize it. And that's what we're doing. We're going to tackle things the way we never tackled things before, and we're going to build this sucker.
Yeah. Are you in contact with Jay and the other dude right now?
Not currently. We write.
But they're watching.
They're
Yeah.
watching. Okay.
Yeah, we sent
So look, first
postcards.
of all, if you guys are fans of Collider, the Schmoes, the Schmodown, the whole sort of family of content that is everything Collider, Schmoes, whatever, I highly recommend the After Schmo show. It's really, really cool. I get lost listening to it, myself, and it's not on some weird vanity thing of like, oh wow,
No,
they're
it's
talking about
constructive-
us.
It's constructive criticism.
It's
yeah.
constructive criticism. It's not all roses, and it's good to have a mirror, and like that's why I think that these town hall things are very, very important. I also want to plug the Schmodown Rundown. Is that the right name?
Yep.
Yeah. Also very, very cool stuff.
I guess this goes back into that vein a little bit because people were asking about the Patreon that was launched for Schmodown. Now, that was launched in what the fans perceive as a very transitional period when ownership was changing. So does that continue, or does the Patreon settle once we have more of our firm footing in the new studio?
Well, first, the way I want to start this is to kind of let everybody know how this happened, because I know there's been like conflicting reports out there, and I've seen it on Twitter. And again, we wanted to wait for this. This deal has been, and I'll let you talk about the actual.
You're talking about the overall
The
acquisition.
overall
of Collider.
deal has been going on for about, let's say, 3 or 4 months or so, or maybe even more. I don't even know. He can talk about that. The actual deal wasn't done until like a week or so before.
This is actually look, and I'm gonna. This is an announcement. Okay, it was actually finished on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and now it's called Collider Day. And February 14th already passed, but moving forward, as long as this company is around, February 14th is a recognized holiday, and none of us will work. Okay?
I like it. Well, my wife will like that. Anyway, so that while these conversations were happening, and while when I knew that it was a possibility, one of the things. So the way it used to work was at Complex, there was a deal that myself and Mark had with Complex about the Schmodown, because Mark and myself the Schmoes Know channel is under the Complex MCN, which, if you know, is basically they provide. We're under their network, and we still are the Schmoes. But we also had a deal with them that what we would do is they would provide whatever it was, a certain amount of money per month to produce the show to be on Collider. Now, I knew that if he was going to buy it, that would change, because we wouldn't be under his MCN. He doesn't have the MCN of Complex. That there would have to be another deal made, because Mark and I own the IP for the Schmodown. It's essentially kind of a licensed thing. So we thought, what would be the right deal for Collider in order, because he loves the Schmodown, we love the Schmodown. We wanted to make sure that we put it on the channel still, because Collider built it to what it is today. So I thought about it one night, and I walked in. And I said, "Listen," because to be fair, Brianne Chandler had who missed movies from the Schmodown. She had said to me, "Why don't you guys do a Schmodown Patreon?" And I said, "I don't know if I can do that." And then I started thinking about it. Well, because of this deal, maybe I can. So the deal I presented to Mark was, what if we ran a Patreon for Schmodown, and with that, Collider would provide the hands, obviously the talent, the workers, labor, as far as, and then editing, not even editing, just promos. And we would take over the full-time editing. We would take over the paying all the staff, getting all the food, doing all these things. And would he be up for that? And he said, yeah, he'd be up for that if Schmodown was able to kind of pay for itself. And with that, because the budget that Complex was given was a little smaller for what we needed to do. Now, because of you guys, we have 2 editors. We have a team of writers. We're able to provide food for the crew every time that they're here. We'll be able to do art. You see Brian Ward's able to do stuff. We've done so much with already what you guys have done and contributed, and that is why the Schmodown is able to still live at Collider.
Look, absolutely. And necessity is the mother of invention. And look, at the end of the day, we've like I said before, we've lost the parachute. Right now, it's just us and you guys. That's it. Like between us, everybody in this room, the few folks that are outside, and everybody that's tuned in and watches our content, that's it. Like all the value that's going to be generated is going to happen between our relationship. And I love the Schmodown. I've actually tried to get him to be my partner in the team matches.
I've seen that question on the live chat as we started this, is will Frosty ever compete in the Schmodown?
I've asked him so many times.
I just want to point something out. This is a straight up lie. I have
what do you
never been
mean?
asked to
That's
be
not
on
a
the
lie.
show.
That's not a lie.
It is an absolute lie.
not a
They've
lie.
always said to me, "We are nervous about you coming on." I'm making a joke.
No.
They've
I've always
they've
wanted
asked me a
him.
few
You were in
times.
Brazil at the time.
I've always wanted Frosty as my team partner because Frosty knows his shit.
Yeah.
But look, we love that show, and when you love something, you're willing to sacrifice, and you're willing to do what's necessary to keep it going. And Kristian, and you guys, look, all the fans that support the Patreon sacrifice their money, their hard-earned money, to make sure that the show lives, and that means the world to us. And look, I promise you this. I don't guarantee it, but I promise it. We are going to keep fighting here every single day to make sure that show stays on the air, gets bigger, gets brighter. We do more cool shit with it, and all that kind of stuff. But I am very, very, very impressed and happy that the Patreon is as successful as it is. Because it's actually mind-blowing how successful that Patreon is.
Dennis, this question I think is best answered by you, and then I'll throw it to the floor as well. French Stud, at French Stud.
Nice.
I don't know how you're the one that got that handle, but congratulations on landing it.
Because he's a stud.
He's a stud, and boy, does he like to talk in the chat room. A lot. And his question is about the YouTube chat room, is when will we start incorporating the YouTube chat more into the shows, if we're going to do that, whether it's fielding questions. And then also, I think in the vein of that, not going back against maybe French Stud in particular, but some other people in the chat room, will we start moderating the chat room and cleaning up the streets a little bit?
Yeah, that's definitely something we've been looking into for a while. Integrating the chat more, I think, is something that we can integrate maybe in a specific type of show or whatever, something that we can discuss. But yeah, we are looking into moderation because I think that is necessary both for the chat and the comments on YouTube. And I kind of want to go back to the other question that I had before. I want to give a shout out to the production staff here. We have Thad, Joey, Copster, Adam, Cody, Frank, because when I was talking about the studio, people were probably wondering, hey, why wasn't the studio ready right from the go? We had, with the deal going on, the deal happened. It's one of those things where it's like they talk, you guys have been talking for a while, and then once it happens, and we went, and we moved everything over within 2-3 days and had to set everything up. So much props to all the guys here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say real quick, what people might not realize behind the scenes is this place was, I'm not going to use what's the right term? in terrible condition for shooting content, and they did a ridiculously amazing job in like overnight getting it ready to do this stuff. I was ridiculously impressed.
There were a lot of boxes being moved in this studio,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was very impressive to see the crew that has been hired to do things like editing and engineering and more technical side of things, just really get some good old-fashioned elbow grease in there and really get everything into shape. Because when we moved in, it looked like the warehouse from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, there's just boxes everywhere, and now it actually is a full-fledged studio with multiple locations to shoot from. Nate Strangeman, at The Strangeman, writes, something that I think it's an apropos question. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are curious about the personalities, past, present, future of Collider, but in particular, he says, will we ever see somebody like John Campea on the show again, perhaps in the Schmodown, is what he postulates.
So, look, so John Campea was sort of the nascent member of the AMC group. AMC, without getting into too many details, AMC was going to do away with that whole thing. And this guy right here, who, one of the main reasons why I have so much confidence in this place is because of not only everybody in this table, but really everybody in this room. It's just like, it's amazing how much they think of the brand before they think of themselves. And that's something that we will keep building on. But with Frosty in particular, he recognized an opportunity when AMC wasn't sure what it was going to do with its movie news product. And he reached out to us at Complex saying, hey, I have this AMC play. Maybe we can do a deal for the AMC movie news team. And it was a very, very clever kind of strategy that he had of giving us video overnight. And to be honest with you, I was so focused on Complex at the time that I didn't really give Collider a lot of thought. But then when Frosty made that move is when things started to happen a little bit more. So my point is that I will always respect the past and the infrastructure that was built by the AMC Movie News team of John Campea, Dennis Tzeng, Kristian Harloff, John Schnepp, Alicia Malone, some of the great faces from that old era that Frosty had the foresight to say, hey, wait a minute, if that's kind of, it's not exactly sure what's going to happen with that in the future, maybe we can bring that in-house and overnight have a video infrastructure on the Collider brand. And I got to give Frosty a lot of credit because that is one of the most important moves that this brand has ever made, and I thank you for that. Now, John and I think are pretty chummy, and I respect John. I think he's a very smart dude. But ultimately, there was a few decisions along the way that John didn't agree with me on. And John, like I said, before, if you feel that you're in a job situation where you want to go somewhere and you can't, you should probably move on. And John, to his credit, did what was best for him and his family, and he moved on. I did what I thought was best for this company, and I stand behind all my decisions. I like John a lot, and I wish him only the best. So what does the future hold? I mean, look, you can't even, I have no idea what's going to happen 2 days from now, To quote the great John Gruden, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive in 10 years, right? So who knows what the future holds? But what I do know is that I am extremely committed to that dude right there, Mark Ellis, as the host of Movie Talk. It's amazing to me how much work he puts in. And you guys don't see this out there. You just think it's his natural little charm. But I'm telling you, when we all get in here, Thad gets in here the earliest, and Ellis is already in front of the mirror, rehearsing his lines, Ellis works very, very, very hard, and I am so proud to have him as the leader of Movie Talk, and we're just going to keep building on that.
He's all right.
Thank you, and how dare you show them the wizard behind the curtain. There's no rehearsal whatsoever that goes into movie talk. I will thank you for your compliment and for providing me with the budget to go to Men's Warehouse when they have a sale to wear those spiffy suit jackets that I'm now fond of. Chris El Guapo has a question I think is interesting for your history and possibly your future, because he asked, he always felt that gaming content was one thing missing from Collider on the video side. With Marc Fernandez having been in that world, obviously with your Grand Theft Auto success, is this going to change? Are we going to see more video game related content on Collider Video?
Yes. Excuse me.
You're the CEO. You can do whatever you want.
I love video games. I absolutely love video games, and I love playing them. And we need to come up with a strategy that works. And look, some of those, and Josh was incredible because Josh is a gamer, but he's also incredibly afraid of everything. So what we did with him around the VR stuff was incredible. The stuff that we've done with Kristian, I think, is really cool too. And he hates this name, but the dad gamer.
Stupid.
The dad gamer thing. But I love freaking video games. And I'll say it right now. We're working on 2 video games that are going to come out that we are making ourselves. One of them is awesome, and the other one is even better. One of them is tied to a brand that everybody will know once it's announced, and the other one is a completely original IP that I'm slightly obsessed with. So yes, video games are going to be a huge part of this thing. Kristian and I have talked a lot about this with Dennis, with Thad, with guys like Joey Razul, who I don't know if you guys know him, but Joey's also a gamer and really into this stuff. Is that, look, we're going to probably launch a gaming channel pretty soon. And what's going to happen on that gaming channel, some pretty exciting stuff that I don't think we should talk about specifically because we're still trying to figure it all out. But yes, gaming is a vertical that we're going to go at extremely, extremely hard.
Ali Slade at Glitter Geek Alley asked a question that I think could be answered by everybody, because I'd be interested in all your takes on it, is how is Collider moving forward to become not just the standard, but the leader in this type of media format? Basically, what makes Collider different than the rest? Because there's a lot of similar channels in this space. What separates Collider?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the first thing is a little bit what we were just talking about, is that the first thing that Collider has always built, and and you got to give John Campea a lot of credit on this too, is that when he would build personalities, he would look for personalities, and then we continue on, we look for personalities, and we've built personalities in the movie space. We need to build personalities everywhere. We need to find new personalities, and like Mark said before, it's just from every walk of life. But it's also a matter of how do you become, because right now, when you think of Collider, you think of movies, you think of movie news, you think of the great work that Frosty and his team have been doing for years. How do you think about us besides just movies? Is it building off the games? Is it building off sports? Is it building a podcast network? Is it building original programming? That's how you become more than just a movie news channel. That's how you become more than just a movie news brand. You become it by building out new IP, new content, new things that you guys, because maybe there's an audience out there right now who's never heard of Collider. But if we launch something in video games, there's a new audience there. And maybe that audience crosses over to the movie side. Maybe it just stays on the video game channel. Maybe there are people who are obsessed with podcasts. I'm looking at you, Snelling and Williams. But there are people who are obsessed with podcasts that will just live there, and maybe we start pushing them over. That's how you build. That's how you become different than everyone else. You become a company, a media company, than just one particular thing.
I'd love to, if it's okay with you, I'd love to hear Frosty and Dennis's opinion on this as well.
I was going to say that I agree with what Kristian's saying, and I have things that I would really like to say right now, but I want to hold it close to the vest because I don't want to show the hand that I'm developing when it's not ready to be shown.
Right.
I will just say that there are very exciting things going on behind the scenes, a lot of insane conversations, and but I promise you that we are at the beginning of something, I call this Collider 3.0, where it started, being honest, in a bedroom, and then Complex got in, and now Mark's taken over, and we are. I'm just really excited about where we are right now, and I promise you, some really cool stuff is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah,
that will make that person understand where. I promise. It's good.
Yeah. And then in terms of Collider, I think in the future for production-wise and under Marc's leadership, we have expanded and made the production value much higher. I mean, you take a look at what we're doing with Movie Talk. We launched that new graphics package.
Shout out to Brian Ward, by the way.
A week ago. And you're going to see, you saw comic book shopping. You see all these different types of programming that are utilizing much better, cameras, editing,
50.
like top 50. So all these things, you're going to see that in a bunch of different verticals.
Yeah, Frosty, that also goes back to the Collider.com side of things. I want to give a shout out to the entire Collider.com crew, all the writers and everybody that works behind the scenes there, because they are incredible at what they do. Can you give us some quick updates on that side of things?
The sites, I was going to make a joke. Let me be serious. Everyone who works on the .com, I'm consistently amazed every single day at what Adam, Matt, Dave, Haley, Christina, Chris, everyone who writes for the .com, I'm constantly amazed at what they do. And one of the things that and this was at the beginning of when we were talking, one of the things I'm really excited about is the way that the .com and video are going to collide, if you will, or in the future, and some of the stuff that we're discussing behind the scenes. But ultimately, the only reason that we're able to be here right now is because of the tireless, amazing work of everyone on the .com who propelled Collider from, when the site started, in case people don't realize, we did not have corporate backing. It was a very, very, I want to stress the word, very independent operation that went from nothing to where we are today. And it's because...
Full circle, to be honest.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there's just been amazing writers who have contributed along the way, and the staff that we have right now it blows me away every single day at what they do, and the output and the editorials and just what we're able to accomplish.
William L. Williams at Cullen Prime asked an interesting question I think can be looked at two different ways. He says, do you have any plans on doing more shows live than just Movie Talk? He would love to see Collider Heroes live. I think you could also answer that whether we're doing more shows that are live streaming or actually more live shows in general, like what we're doing with the Schmodown on March 15th.
I would say, though, that that's a production question first.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Heroes Live,
Yeah,
we've had
Jedi
Jedi
too,
Council Live, and it's something we definitely can do. I think we just need to first lock down all our programming once we add the new programming as well, and then we can easily implement that stuff.
Yeah, and as far as the live show goes, you would look at the March 15th Schmodown as kind of a guinea pig, because the overall goal, very similar to that question that was just asked before, I mean, I think Collider in general could be on a tour. I think that and what we're trying to do with this live show on March 15th is see how it works, see who shows up. Right now, the tickets are you can get them, by the way. It was at fullscreenlive.com. So if you want to come out and check it out, it's meet and greets and all that stuff. But the goal is then Movie Talk does some of those shows. Heroes, Jedi Council. I mean, if you look at what happened at Star Wars Celebration and the amount of support, that blew me away. I mean, I knew
The screening series.
the screening series that Frosty's doing at Collider Live. He does so many different events that a lot of you guys have come out to do. There's so much. The Collider Live is kind of like its own brand too for these different events. So that's kind of the answer to that, as opposed to just putting it on the YouTube stream. There are ways to do it to where you guys can come out and see. And I know that not everybody lives in Los Angeles, but that's kind of the ultimate goal is, hey, we're going to be in Minnesota this weekend. We're going to be in Chicago. We're going to be here. That's kind of the goal, but very similar to what he was talking about with TV Talk. You guys got to want it. And if you want it, then we can hopefully do it.
And I think one thing that I'm excited about is I would love more audience participation programming, because I think it's very important. Once you have that dialogue, that feedback between brand and audience that we were talking about before, it creates a healthier conversation. When those conversations are kind of isolated from each other, it creates more of the vitriol and some of the poison that I know we get sometimes, and like, look, we have an incredible fan base that kind of polices itself. So when somebody starts talking stuff that's inappropriate, typically the fans jump on them, and that's one of the main reasons why I had so much confidence in buying this place, is because I know that our core fan base is extremely strong. But in terms of a live perspective, I think that the biggest value we can get out of that is creating more audience participation. So however we can try to figure that out is something that I'm very interested in.
Cookbook 500 has a great question, and he does not mince words. How do you guys make money?
That's fair. That's fair. First of all, it's a very good question. It's the only question that kind of matters in a lot of ways. But we make money in a few ways. We make money. The simplest way we make money is through media display, right? So the website has banners on it, right? We sell it at a certain CPM, which is a cost per thousand. And we also make money through YouTube and other video distribution on pre-roll, right? So pre-roll and media display, that's tier number one. Tier number two is that we make money on sponsorships, right? We have great brand partners that love our voice, love our audience, they want to get involved. So we try to integrate them into our programming in a way that doesn't sacrifice the quality of the programming, right? That's number two. Number three, and the kind of the brass ring, the holy grail, is licensing. Licensing, Awesome-tacular is an example of licensing. The Collider IMAX series is an example of licensing. Licensing is something that we love because it allows us to have a brand that's so strong that other media distribution companies want to rent it from us for a term and let us sort of have some fun with it. So those are the three core ways we make money. Harloff also and the Schmoes have kind of turned me on to the idea of merchandising. You know, like the Schmoes do great on merchandising, and also I'm very fascinated with the idea of premium goods, right? So that's where the video games come in, right? If you sell a product at a cost, then you don't need to worry about advertising or brand support. You just sell it for a cost. So those other two are not really in play right now, but strategically we want to move towards that. But that's how we make money. Did that answer the question? It was kind of quick, but
it answered his question. My add-on to it is crypto like the Force? Like, does it just surround us and penetrate us and bind us together? Am I made of Bitcoin and I'm just not aware of it?
So the answer is no. You're actually made of atoms and stuff like that, and electricity and those kinds of things. But the best way to explain it, look, and I know that it's a little bit tough to explain cryptocurrencies because there's not a ton of use cases around it. If I asked you, explain to me the internet, right? Typically, you would probably go to a use case. Like, oh, let me show you my phone. I log into this thing and I get the internet, right? I can search for information pretty freely. I can take a picture of, and you guys, I'm gonna blow your spot up a little bit here. Yeah. So at the Critics' Choice Awards, right, you got Kristian Harloff running around taking pictures with all the celebs and having a good time. He can share those pictures with people, right? Then you guys out there can retweet those pictures, right? So the internet allows the free exchange of information, right? What cryptocurrency does, and more specifically the blockchain, right? The blockchain is really the technology. The cryptocurrency is a byproduct of the blockchain technology. Blockchain allows you to create an open exchange of value, okay? So there's a big difference, right? So the internet was exchange of information. The blockchain allows you to exchange value. Now, what's the biggest difference between these two things? Is that information can be repeatedly exchanged, right? Like I can send a picture of him to him, he could send it to him, and it could be sent all over the internet pretty easily. With value, and it's, good way to understand it is like in the barter system, you can send value back and forth, but you can never have the value in two places at the same time. If I give you a cow for a thing of tomatoes, we can now, like that cow is yours. It's not my cow anymore, right? If I give you $1 for whatever, like I don't get to keep that dollar I just gave you. I gave it to you, right? So that's really like the simplest way to understand it. The blockchain is a ledger. It's a database that's completely decentralized. And the implications of what that database can do for us are just beginning to make themselves known. And yes, like right now, it is a little bit like the Force, and wielding its power can do some, I believe, will be so important that, I don't know, in 3 years, we might not be talking about the internet anymore.
If you have a cow, I have tomatoes. If you want to talk deal, we can get to that right after the show. A couple more questions from you guys. Cameron M76 says, what future show or project are you most excited to get started on? Kristian, let's start with you and then go around the horn.
That's easily the podcast network. I bother him about it. Not bother him. I go to him every day about it.
Bothers.
I believe it's the next big step for us. I think that once we launch this podcast channel, there's bigger opportunities for not only our personalities that we have here, for bringing in other personalities to get more long form content, because a lot of the long form content on Collider Video, I think it's there already. I think that Collider Video, as you've seen, we do a lot of short form stuff now. We'll do more of that short form stuff now. But yeah, it's the podcast network. Copster's coming in. This is the silent part.
I think Copster just got Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Just as far as what are you most excited about the new stuff?
What I'm most excited about is building this thing. Into ways that none of us, including myself, can even imagine. And like doing it through a team effort. Scripted. Scripted is something that we're definitely going to start getting into. I want to take swings. I want to take huge swings and not be afraid to miss. Like the great Arthur Conan Doyle kind of taught me this at a young age. To be honest with you, it was actually Star Trek. Like I don't want to front. It was Star Trek talking about Arthur Conan Doyle. And it's like, when you eliminate the variables, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. We want to start really taking huge swings. And that's what I get excited about. I get excited about the failure, if that makes any sense, The old fail, fast forward routine. Like, I want to try big things and have some of them succeed and have some of them not succeed, but learn from the ones that don't succeed.
I am very, very excited for what Marc just said about what the future holds. I think that there is just a tremendous opportunity to do some stuff that we've never been able to do, ideas that we've pushed around for a while that are finally going to happen. And I'm just really excited for what fans can see on both video and on the .com.
I'm most excited about original series, much like what Marc's talking about in terms of scripted and also documentary type of stuff, short form documentary. You already seen kind of our top 50 series, and we're going to continue with that. But I'd like to see more programming along those realms.
I continue with, I'm most excited about growth. I think that in general, that's what we're all talking about. It's a matter of growth, whether it's programming, whether it's staff, whether it's all these things. It's as long, and the other thing that I think that in the beginning we kind of got to with the TV talk, and I know sometimes when you see a program, and I know it happened, Schmodown was an example to watch this actually happen. When you're asked, can you guys like and comment, you guys do it all the time when you're asked, but sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well when I'm watching videos, I don't always think about it. It is very important, whether you're watching Movie Talk, Heroes, Jedi Council, Schmodown, not only like it and comment. If you're on Twitter and you see it, just retweet it. If you're on Facebook, share it. That's how the word keeps getting spread. And that's what the hardcore fan base can help do to make sure things like TV talk cancellations don't happen, because keep hitting that share button so more people find it. We haven't found everybody who loves movies and TV. We haven't found them all. You guys can help us find them.
Yeah.
I think a good way to wrap up this town hall would be to throw a question we already had out here, because I see a lot of people reiterating in the chat room, but to you this time, Marc, and that is, where do you see Collider on this day 1 year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now?
God, I got so many Star Wars analogies in my brain right now.
I hope one of them is not I have a bad feeling about this.
Look, you can never play scared, number one, right? So that's why I think the Eagles really taught the world that this past Super Bowl. But a year from now, we have to be more focused in what our sort of long-term company vision is, which is to create distribution for content creators. I think that's something that I haven't really touched on. But if we're really talking a year out, I want to facilitate content creators, and I want to facilitate distribution for content creators. And that's ultimately where the power of the blockchain is really going to come into effect in this company, is how do I use the blockchain to empower content creators and strengthen my distribution? Like, if you really want to get real about where do I see this a year from now, that's where I see this a year from now. In the next step, I see our quality of our content elevated by an order of magnitude, without a doubt. And I put a lot of pressure on the people in this room to keep our quality increasing, to not sit on our hands and say, oh, the fans like it. It's like, yeah, the fans like it, but they're gonna like it even more. Not the first couple of days, because it's always like, oh, blah, 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 blah. But people get used to things very, very quickly. And then once you show them something that's better, then they get used to that. So again, I know we've already given them a few little shout outs, but the production team here, sometimes Thad, Dennis, myself, Kristian will tell them we need X, Y, Z, and they look at us like, what the bleep are you guys talking about? But then they figure it out, you know, and then through iteration, we get it done. So number one is really establishing what the DNA of our company is going to be for the next 10 years, which is a place where content creators can really distribute their work. That's really what I'm most obsessed with. And then second after that is just making sure that the quality of our content continues to challenge itself and elevate at a high level. I mean, I look at the people in this room and I see people, but I also see ideas, because they all constantly are coming to me with ideas. Frank Lucatardo, who hasn't gotten any shout out, but Frank is the editor of the Top 50 show.
Genius.
I was getting to that. Thank you, Thad. And also the editor of Comic Book Shopping. He's friggin' great, you know? And that's just one of the many people that we have here. But the point is, you know, I look at Roka. Roka's always coming to me saying, what about this show? What about that show? What about this show? I was a huge fan of Top 10. Like, I was a huge fan of it. I was the one that said, let's put Top 10 on video. And taking Top 10 off the channel is probably one of the toughest things I've ever had to do at this job, because I friggin' love that show. But ultimately, again, just like TV Talk, the audience wasn't there. And I know that there was a lot of people who loved that show, but they didn't do like the extra little step that we need.
No, but it also, what it does show, again, not to keep harping back on the podcast thing, but it showed, because then I put Top 10 back on SK Plus, and it's doing better than it ever did now. Now, obviously, a lot of that was because of the video, but it shows there is a need for the podcast as well. So there's certain things that, like you said, you know, fail sometimes, and then you find the better place for it, and that's exactly what happened with Top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, I could keep talking about the future forever.
You know, there's one thing you asked me about with something I'm looking forward to, and without giving all, Frank, who he just mentioned, and I are working on something right now that we pitched, and everybody seems to be on board with it so far. And if it pops, I know people will be excited about it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Come on, that was a good one. I'm telling you, I guarantee that's the next promo now.
You ask people in very high places whether or not they can give you an answer about the future. They say they want to use Star Wars metaphors. That could mean there is another Skywalker. That could mean, have you ever heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? I think we got a mixture of both of them, because we have some great minds in this room. And
it's not a story, it's a tragedy.
That Ryan Snelling had asked, I consider it a story, it's not a tragedy, asked is, can we see the more Collider town halls like this in the future? Is this how we distribute what's going on and what the news that's breaking from the studio is here to you fans? And I think the best way to answer that is to have the entire town that is here at Collider right here. Can we see more of these kind of vids in the future, guys?
And there's Adam in the back over there. He's working the switcher.
Adam Smith has to run the thing, but I wanted to make sure that this isn't about us. This is about one team working together to build this brand to be the best that it can be. So I wanted to make sure that everybody is here, and just so you guys see them. You know, let's roll call them. Wendy, Zaney, Lee, you guys all know who she is. Thad Williams, the commish, you guys know who he is. Cobster, right? He owns the place. He's actually my silent partner. He's the silent partner. Dennis Tzeng, Mark, just come here with us for a second.
Bye.
Yeah. John Roca. And like, look, I'm very proud of Roca. Roca, I keep harking on, like, let's have more debate, let's have more discussion. Roca, I think, is really an anchor when it comes to that. He's not afraid to say his opinion, even if he gets railed on it online.
or by Dennis.
Yeah, or anyone in here.
Or by Dennis, but I can't be more proud of the growth that he's had. Mark Riley, who's probably he's like, I'm a fan. He's like, I'm kind of a Riley fan.
Nice.
That's kind of my fan. You
Not
know?
bigger than Matt Kearns.
I made it.
Perry Nemiroff, who's just like, Perry has grown so much since I first met her. When I moved her from New York to LA, because Perry's been with the site for what, 5 years?
Long time.
6 years?
At least 5 days.
14.
Yeah, a very, very long time. And Perry lived in New York. And even back then, Frosty and I were like, how do we create more connective tissue between the site and the video? That we knew that was very, very important. And Perry has always been an instrumental part of that strategy. Schnepp. I mean, come on. John Schnepp is the dude. And, we love having him here. He's an incredible interviewer. The sweaty thing is real, The sweat is real.
Comic Book Shopping Season 2, baby!
Yeah,
Come
yes,
on.
yes. And that will happen. Comic Book Shopping Season 2 will happen, and we'll talk more about that some other day. Razul, who's our security guard here at the office. Razul's an incredible cameraman, the lead cameraman on all our stuff, like Top 50, Comic Book Shopping, all those things. Cody Hall, right, your friendly neighborhood Cody Hall, who's just like anything you ask Cody to do, he does. Frank Lucatardo, who we've already given a few shout outs to, but an incredible editor. And I can't wait to see all the cool things that you got in store for us, brother.
Maybe, and I just want to say something for the 5 people that are not here that are based in other places: Adam, Matt, Dave, Haley, Allison. Thank you so much for everything you do on the .com.
And the last thing, though, too, that we posted this up to, I think that we're all, for the entire crew here, we went through, as we were going through these changes, we didn't know what was going to happen because we all believe in Collider, we all believe in the vision, but we have to thank you for the fact that you had this, because you are the one that said, let's do this thing. I believe in this brand. And it is something special when someone says, I believe in you, I believe in a brand, now let's go do something. So I just kind of echo the sentiments, let's go do something.
Yeah, and for people that don't realize, Collider would not be what Collider is. Everyone here would not have a job, and we would not be what we are if Marc hadn't done what he did. So if you like Collider and you're happy to be reading the articles and watching the content on YouTube,
let's just keep it going. Let's just keep growing it. Thank you, Ellis.
Jay just showed up.
Yeah, we just got Jay. Where'd you hide, brother?
Right behind you.
Oh, he's right there. So look, we're going to be growing. We're going to keep doing cool things, and we're very happy that, there's a full-time staff, but there's also a part-time staff that is just as important. And hopefully, as we keep growing, we'll be able to support even more people. So
Cut to Adam over there.
Adam,
Cut to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Oh, yeah!
You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch!
If you guys aren't familiar with Adam, you probably heard him yelling last night every time Blade Runner 2049 won an Oscar. He's a pretty big fan, and I'm a pretty big fan of everything that is happening, has happened, and more importantly, will happen with the future of Collider Video. Hopefully we get to do more of these town hall vids, because I think transparency is very important in this community, and we love letting you guys know our feelings about what's to come, as much as we enjoy hearing from you guys and hearing your suggestions as to what we can do to improve Collider.com, Collider Video, and the whole community. Thank you guys on behalf of everybody who has new job titles that I already forgot. I'm merely Marc Ellis signing off. See you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Collider Town Hall. Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Marc Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. If you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.